All right. Today we'll talk about the history of the media research, right? This is part of the media effect theories and more focus on research paradigm. So what kind of research done about the media effects? So this is actually timetables. In fact, in terms of the effect size. So a lot of research is done and focus on the size of effects. And let's see. I gave you a lecture about very roughly last week, and I'll give you a more specific the change of paradigm and change of the perspective of the media effect size today. And during the World War I and World War II, probably important events during the 1990 and 1900s and 1945, probably World War II is very important events, international events. And as I mentioned that, propaganda, the media is part of the as a propaganda tool for the during the world wars, right? So very powerful and propaganda function of the media before the 1945, and really focus on direct and direct. Okay. Influenza is really it's hanging around here. I know that. A direct effect and powerful effect and propaganda and mass society. That mass society means, and probably one directional effect from the media to audience until 1945. So a lot of research focus on this kind of the characteristics of the media, and then they suggest it's kind of the theory, media effect theory. Very first, the media effect theory is, we say bullet theory, right? Bullet theory. It's quite important. The concept of bullet is very powerful and very direct and one directional. And another models, SMCRE models, is part of the important theory. Very first stage. Laswell, right? Laswell suggests SMCRE. And Shannon and Wilber. Shannon and Wilber mathematical models is also part of the important very first stages of the media effect. And probably the effect size is quite high right here. In terms of effect size, very high. This is really high. I say the high and low, right? And it's very high until 1945. why 1945 is a very important year? It's kind of a very historical the times in terms of the media effect research. Why don't you remember right here, Lazarsfeld? Lazarsfeld, his first name Paul. You say Paul Lazarsfeld. Paul Lazarsfeld did it in 1945. Very important study we call a two-step theories, actually right here, his model. Now it's memorized this, okay? If you read the chapters of the textbook, not much discussion about this theory, but let's memorize very important theory, the two-step flow theory by Paul Lazarsfeld in 1945. At these studies. So what this study is actually, if you look at the second lecture notes in EKU sites, it's 1 or 2 slides about this study. Paul Lazarsfeld, two-step flow theories. This is actually, I'll give you a description about this. This study actually look at the impact of the media, especially newspapers and radio, on peoples and audience during the early 1940s in U.S. presidential elections campaigns. So early 1940s, during U.S. presidential election campaigns, Paul Lazarsfeld examined the impact of the media, especially newspaper and radio, on the people's decision, voters' decision on elections. And then they found that before these theories, according to this paradigm, probably Paul Lazarsfeld recognized the impact of the newspaper and impact of the radio is huge and very strong in voters' decision, right? But in his study, he found that not much, a little. The impact of media is not powerful. The impact of media is not as strong he expects. And then he found that why the impact of media is limited, not powerful, not actually the size of the effect. A lot of previous studies actually expected during the early 1940s and before the 1940s. Most of the research actually said that media were very strong, media were very powerful. But Paul Lazarsfeld did it. That's not true anymore. How he found that? If you look at the slides of my lecture notes, actually the impact of media is not direct. This is very important. We said they argue direct, but according to Paul Lazarsfeld, media, okay, media right here, and numerous peoples, uncountable peoples right here. That's mass society, right? Mass society means mass is, we can count it, audience. It's a huge number of the peoples, uncharacteristics, no power to control the informations. That's right here. It's kind of a spot. So we call it a mass, right? Mass is we can count it. It's like isolated individuals, isolated public, right? No power to control, and no right even to have whether they decide whether they received information or not. So this is mass, and before the Paul Lazarsfeld, That's really direct, right? Direct and powerful impacts from the media. But Paul Lazarsfeld found that very important concepts. Some moderating facts exist between media and public. What is that? Yeah, public opinion leaders. So something right here between media and mass, media and peoples, it's called opinion leaders. Opinion leaders. So we call the OL, okay? OL. OL stands for opinion leaders. Do you believe that? Do you agree the Paul Lazarsfeld findings? Actually, we have opinion leaders in our society. Do you agree with that? Or you don't have any opinion leader who influence your decision or who influence your lives, for examples? Paul Lazarsfeld, two steps, okay? This is two steps. But before the Paul Lazarsfeld, that's one step, right? From the media to public. Now the two steps, one step and two steps. One step from media to public opinion leaders. The second step, from the public opinion leaders to public. That's actually two steps. After he found that, he called this kind of process from the media to public, he called the two-step flow theory. Two-step flow theories. According his theories, media effect is not so powerful, it's not so direct, and he called it limited, okay? Limited. Media effect is quite limited. And then we call the bullet theory and very powerful theories. We call the, powerful paradigm. Actually, it changed to limited paradigm of the media effects. And then, why don't you remember another names, Paul Lazarsfeld and Elliot E. Katz. Elliot Katz. Elliot Katz is a very important scholars who changed the paradigm of the media effect research. You know what? Before the Elliot Katz, most of studies actually focus on media themselves, media technologies. Elliot Katz said that, hey, we need to study peoples. We need to study audience. We need to study public rather than media. You see, propaganda, powerful, direct, one-directional, bullet theory, essential models, Shannon Weaver, all focus on media. All focus on media. Even Paul Lazarsfeld, two-step flow theory focus on media. But he found that existence of the opinion leaders, right? Opinion leaders. Elliot Katz now said we have to turn our focus. We have to turn our attention to people, users, receivers, audience, the public, rather than media, technology, opinion leaders. We have to focus on people like us who use media contents, right? So let's study about people. Let's study about audience. That's actually Katz, L.U. Katz said that. Why I'm saying this? You know what? Very powerful. If we focus on media themselves, media effects should be very strong because media are important, right? If media is important, effect is quite strong. If people are important than media, effects are small. Because the size of effect is decided by the people's preference. People are selectively disposed. People are selective receptions. Okay, one example to understand this. You know, media report same stories about educations, okay? Educations. Media reporting education news stories. I'm an educator. I'm very interested in education news. So, if you are not interested in educations, you selectively avoid the news stories. If you are interested in education, you selectively expose yourself to news, and then more effects, higher effects than others. You make sense? Even though media provide the same news, the size of the effect is quite varied by personality and characteristics of the users and people, the public. Make sense? In terms of that, L.U. Katz suggests very important theories right here. Uses and gratification theory. Okay, memorize, uses, and gratification theories. Uses and gratification theories. Uses and gratification theories. Okay, probably 1970s, the effect size is quite drops from the very powerful to like this. Very limited effects like this. But still remember Paul Lazarsfeld and L.U. Katz, uses and gratification theory, Lazarsfeld two-step flow theories are important examples of the media effects theories during that time period. And 1970s, okay, 1970s. You know what? The importance right here, TV became very important media during the 1950s and 1960s. Everybody talking about TV during the 1950s and 1960s. You know what? Before the TV dominance, before the TV emerged as a very important medium for our lives, Paul Lazarsfeld and L.U. Katz theories looks like good, looks like great. But TV had a huge impact on our lives, right? Since 1950 and 1960s. So, right after the existence of TV, a lot of research actually look at the impact of TV in terms of the effect size. And then they said, hey, we have to go back like this, powerful again, because this is limited, very small amount of the effect size. It's hard to stand. It's hard to bear because we are studying at the journalism mass communication area. I'm professor in the journalism mass communications. But media effect looks like very small. This area is like not important in the field, right? Media is not important. If so, the area and the field is quite not important. So a lot of studies are done about to recover to huge size of the effect from the media, and then focus on a lot of studies on the effect side recoveries. And then since 1970s, along with the TV's impact, a lot of effects research done. Let's go to very first slide. Okay, I can give you several names today, and why don't you remember? Very first. Okay. More specific, lectures about each theories I'll give you, later, not today. I'll give you, one specific theories for one whole class later. But today, just to give you big pictures, okay? So very first, I think, spiral of silence. Just to remember that, spiral of silence. That's very important, very popular communication theory, media effect theories, spiral of silence. Who suggest Neumann? Neumann's spiral of silence. Right up to the 1970s, okay? And, one of the very popular theories in our field, agenda setting. Agenda setting theories. Just to memorize, just name our theory today, not specific, the people like that. Maxwell, Malcolm, and Tanshu, I'll give you specific names later. Anyway, just remember agenda setting theories. Agenda setting theory, 1972. And probably another important theory is diffusion. Yeah, that's very important theory. Everett Rogers theory, diffusion theories. Diffusion. Diffusion theory is very similar with the development theories. Development theories. I teach about two-step flow theories and spiral of silence, agenda setting. Asteroid right here, agenda setting. Because I'm a part of the agenda setting theorist. Yeah. Actually, agenda setting 1972, and I went to the United States 1995. Actually, my professor is one of the agenda setting theorists, whose name is David Weaver. He's a very, very important and very, influential scholar in our field. And I'm actually a third generation. In the, what third generation means? Maxwell Malcolm's in 1970, the agenda setting. His students was David Weaver, who was my professors, and second generation David Weaver. And I'm a student of the David Weaver. I'm third generation, right? So I'm very, following the tradition of the agenda setting research. And then now is I try to, figure out, expand the importance of the agenda setting theory in the surrounding new environments, internet and SNS. So that's ongoing research project to me, and the ongoing research, the expansion of the media effect theory anyway. Agenda setting is a very important, 1972 theory and diffusion developments and cultivation. I don't know how many of you know cultivation theories is another important communication theory, cultivations. So I teach cultivation, diffusion, agenda setting, spiral of silence. And one more thing. Third person effects theory. Third person effect theories. So you are not very familiar with this kind of new terms, but just memorize, just notes and memorize just the important names of a theory today. And I'll give you agenda setting theory for whole week, 2 classes. I'll teach diffusion for the 1 class. I'll teach cultivation for 1 class. I'll teach a third person for 1 class. So I'll give you more specific things, everything from the next week, okay? From the next week. Anyway, these kind of theories focus on, okay, effect size of the media is not so small, and then most of the study found that, hey, let's go again, like this. A little more, all right? So we call this one moderate. Powerful, limited, and moderate paradigm. And then since, let's see, 1990, since 1990s, you know what? TV was a very important factor to recover of the effect, right? Another chance in media effect in internet. Internet became very important media, and then people pay a lot of attention to internet from the traditional media. And then the effect size, including traditional media, internet, has unprecedented effect on people's lives. And going on again, like this way, today. So we call strong, very strong effect paradigm. So what kind of theories actually we learn during the right here? I want to give you not exactly 1990, but very overlapping theories. Framing theories, and priming. One of the scholars who coined priming theories is Lars Willard. Now he's actually visiting professor in the Yonsei University this year. It's one of my close friends. And I'll invite him when I teach priming, and he will teach you about the priming theories. He's actually the originator. So it's a good chance to learn about priming from the originator actually of that theory, right? So priming theories. And reversed agenda setting. The setting. You know, agenda setting and reversed means a different direction of the agenda setting. So you will about the reversed agenda setting from the originator. Yeah, Professor Kim. Yeah, right here. So I teach you a very last part of our class, last part of the semester. I'll teach you about the reversed agenda setting. And then, you know, a lot of different concepts, like in terms of media SNS, is a part of the new media. We'll learn about that, the impact of the SNS. And, you know, a lot of concepts right here I'll introduce. Okay, I'll introduce lots of new concepts when you talk about media effects. Especially, it's a great concepts for internet and SNS impact on our lives. Okay, these are actually big pictures. I did it again, continuously from last week. But last week I gave you very long pictures, and today I give you more specific pictures. Read the more specific names of the theories you have to memorize. And from next week, I'll give you more specific things and description and details about each effect theories. And we'll learn every week and every theory.